Hi, my queenies, kingies, and royalties, and welcome to the Elle Says podcast. It's the queen herself, Elle. How is everyone doing today, and how is everyone feeling? I'm feeling effort. I'm trying to post my second episode, or record my second episode before the 12th, which is actually next week. And I have one podcast recorded already, and this will be my second one. So in each podcast that I record, I want to do in the beginning a mental health check-in, just checking on how everyone's feeling, how's everyone's days going, how's their week going. I believe if this is posted on Spotify that there will be a Q&A section I think I will have up, so you can leave your comments there. And for other places that you may be hearing this, like maybe Google Podcasts or etc., you can either tweet me at my social media account, or you could I could either post like on my Instagram or something, and then you can leave it in the comments of that. So yeah. This is the process. This is my second episode of the process series, and it's a process. I've been doing this for a while, but like doing it like for real is definitely very different than me just recording it. Like, I'm thinking more about the audio, I'm thinking about the background noise, I'm thinking about the volume, I'm thinking about what I'm saying, I'm thinking about everything, and it makes it very more like detail oriented or more thought out than I normally will be if I just recorded. So I think the more I record, the easier it will be for me, and the more I'll feel more comfortable and just normal, like just do it like I normally do. Once I keep recording more and more episodes, I believe I'll just get in more of the swing of things and then have a good ting going. So on every podcast, I want to do the check-in, and then after I do the check-in, I want to say what today Elle says, and then continue to say what today's episode is going to be about. So for today's episode, which is the second episode of the process series, today Elle says, with process comes problems. And I think I'm definitely experiencing that firsthand with starting my podcast, because in the beginning of a process, there's always like everything is going right, and then it just stops. From my personal experience, like it was going well and then it just stops. Because in that moment, I believe a lot of overthinking happened, a lot of just trying to do the best I can to a point that I wasn't doing anything, and in that pause, I definitely gained confidence. Because I had to prepare myself more for what I'm doing, I honestly never thought that starting a podcast would be the first thing that I was going to do. And, I thought I'd be doing, I used to do YouTube, so I believe that was like the part of what I was going to be doing. I didn't know that I'd be podcasting in like a real way. Like, I thought I would just be, doing my little podcast just for fun, but never posting them, never like taking that step of faith to doing what God called me to do in that area, because I didn't take it serious at first. But through this process, I realized that process doesn't come with the absence of problems. And just because the problems come doesn't mean that you weren't meant to do what you're doing. And that was a moment I had to have with myself to be like, you know what? I am doing the right thing. I am where God called me to be. And I can't just think that because, now it may get a little harder, or I'm overthinking too much, or this is stressing me out, that this is not something I'm meant to be doing, because that's not what God said. Like, that's not what He promised, that in everything that I'm going to do. Like, I'm never going to face another problem, just because I'm doing what I'm called to do. And I believe sometimes we might get stuck at the problems in our process that we can't really focus on why we started in the first place. And I had a lot of time to think, in these past weeks about why I wanted to do a podcast. What was I doing a podcast for in building this podcast? And yes, I had. I feel like I just experienced starting something, and then like things are going well, and then like because my brain just like stopped working while I was recording. So what I believe I was trying to say is that in order for me to get like remotivated to record again and just feel like, what, I'm doing my thing, I had to really sit with why I started doing podcasts to begin with. And really it was to help myself, because I always felt that my wisdom that I shared always came outwards. And so like I could help other people, but I struggled to help myself. So I believe when I talk about things in this way, I can not only help other people, but I can help myself too with how I'm feeling. And I was going to call this series Unedited Series, because it's just like, I'm not like, it's so crazy that you can be doing something for so long and it comes so natural to you, but when you actually like try to do it, this is like, it comes like, and I feel like this is all part of the process. I should just be honest and open about like the struggles of just starting something, and it's scary, and you're doing what God called you to, and you're stepping out on faith, and like it's uncomfortable, and it's like, but I have to remember, it was more uncomfortable for me not to be doing this than for me to be actually doing it. And I never really had to try. It's not about trying, it's about doing, it's about just being and not overthinking that. Just be yourself, be open, be transparent, be honest about how you're feeling, that definitely helps through the process. It all really ties into just this whole process, and doing the best you can while you can. I believe when I first recorded my first episode of the podcast, I felt like this is the best episode because it was coming from a place of just, it took me so long to do it, but once I start, it's so easy flowing, it's fun, it's what I love to do. Actually, I love to talk, so if I'm giving something good into the world, something positive, then I believe I'm doing what's right, and I'm not just keeping, the gifts that God blessed me with to myself, because I know the things I say can help someone else just as much as it's helping me to just sit here right now and just talk it out of all the things that I've been feeling and experiencing through this process of starting a podcast. So with the whole problems thing, like, no one wants to have problems. Like, I cannot stand the problems that I've been facing starting this podcast. And honestly, it has not even been outward problems or outward pushback. It's more been problems within myself. The problem of just, I'm struggling to just do it. Like, do it. Record. Sit down. Record. Like, record. That's what you have to do. Record. And like, I struggle to do what I'm doing right now. To just record, because I get nervous. And I'm like, I never got nervous when I recorded podcasts. Like, I have tons of podcasts recorded I've never posted. I just did it as a hobby, thinking that one day, who knows? Like, that's how I started this out. Just looking at it as like, it's fun to do, a way to express myself and have fun. And now I'm actually have a podcast. And like, seeing it all play out, like my cover art, the name of my podcast, just seeing it, like, it's crazy. It's like, I didn't vision it. I didn't manifest it. It just happened. And I didn't even know, like, the whole time while I was just using it as a hobby or something fun to do, that God was going to use it, you know? And maybe that goes to say that you never know what God's going to use. Something that you may overlook, something that you may think is not that significant, and then boom. It's something. Like, this whole process has been something. And honestly, like, the question that really arises in me right now is just like, how do I deal with the problems and the pushback? And also, where is the problems and the pushback coming from? To really answer, like, how I deal with the problems and the pushback, it's like, I honestly keep going. Like, I really don't give it enough time to be like, stop in me. Like, it just feels like when you're doing something, you just really feel called to do. And then, like, problems arise or pushback comes, and it kind of shifts your focus and takes your focus away. And now you're trying to figure out, how do I refocus on what God's calling me to do? And listen, I'm really figuring that out in this whole process, this whole thing, no pun intended. I'm really taking the time to understand that problems are going to come, but it's not the problems or the pushback, it's how I deal with them. So I think some practical steps really is like journaling about it, asking yourself, you know, where is this feeling coming from? Why do I feel this now? Is this something that I felt before and didn't pay any attention to it? And it's something I actually want to do now. Like, I'm helping myself now. Like, I want to journal about this and really figure out how to deal with the problems and the pushback when you are called to do something, you know, that God called you to do. How do you deal with the problems and the pushback that will arise in it? Because you probably felt that, why is this happening now? Like, you could have probably been doing what you're doing, been doing what you're called doing, and like all of a sudden, like, a problem arises or pushback arises, and you'll feel like, why is this happening now? Like, this could have happened a while ago. Like, this could have happened when I first started. This could have happened, like, why is this happening now? That's a good question to ask anyway. And I think that probably leads to the next question of, where is this problem and pushback coming from? For me, I feel like it's coming from a place of just insecurity, a place of just not feeling like this is where it was all supposed to start. Like, this is what exactly I'm supposed to be doing. Because we always have our vision of how our life is going to go, or what we want to do, and so forth. But it's like, you're not thinking about, okay, well, God says this and you're not doing this no more, you're doing that. It's like, hold up. That shift that occurs is like, come on, like, I was focused on this area of my life. Now I have to, like, not drop it, but like shift my focus to be more on this area where you're calling me to. It really is a moment that you just sit back and really reflect on your life and think, was I really prioritizing my vision over the vision God had for me? And like, that's definitely a question I ask myself. And I'm feeling insecure in it because it was a part of me trusting that this is truly where God called me to be. And I'll know that more as I continue through this process. I'll know it more. It'll reveal itself through this process that I'm exactly where I need to be. And in this moment, I honestly, truly feel like this is exactly what I'm meant to be doing, because it's actually helping me understand a lot about myself, even in this moment. And I truly feel that it is okay to feel like where the problems and the pushback is coming from. You know, for me, it's like my insecurities. It's okay to feel that, because at least you know that, this is where it's coming from. So then you have an area to work on. And I believe I never felt insecure about my voice or speaking or anything like that. I just did it and I didn't think about it. Only when you realize, oh, you're putting this out to the world, that you kind of get that, oh, well, is it the best? And I believe that it's just a hurdle. And like, truly, when I get over all this, like, the episodes I'll be making will become better and better and better. And then I come to this moment where I'm more grateful for the process, grateful for the problems, grateful for the pushback. Change the insecurity into gratitude that, look, if I hadn't felt that way, I probably wouldn't have took it as serious as I did about making sure I have a place to record, I have a time to record, a day to record, like structure and organization. I probably wouldn't pay no attention to it if that insecurity didn't arise in me. Sometimes the bad things in the moment later turn out to be, like in this process, like me being insecure in the beginning really made me work harder on this podcast. It made me be more serious about it, more organized, more structured, and actually enjoy it. So I guess, a bad turned good. And that's what God does, It was like he took my insecurity and he turned it around to work in my favor, which was me actually being able to record my second episodes. Because, like, how would I record this episode if I didn't feel that way? Like, it kind of got me to where I am right now to record this second episode that is more the structure of how my episodes are going to go, opposed to my first one that I just did on the fly. This one is actually thought out and more put together. As I'm recording, I love that I'm like basically breaking it down in segments. So maybe even then I can I think editing will be very easy because I'm just breaking it down in segments. Also, it's helping me keep track of what I'm talking about and not just lose focus, because I'm going to tell you, I think I said in my first podcast that my mind kind of goes all over the place. So I definitely do lose focus on what I'm talking about. Like, I'll be talking and the next thing my mind would just go blank. So yes, I think I was saying that God turns a bad thing into a good thing. In my situation, he did. And that goes for everything in life. I don't know. I think sometimes you may have the thought that as a child of God, you may not experience problems. Like, that's not true. And I think when you actually experience it in your personal life, you're like, oh, I thought I'm supposed to have like less problems, or I thought I'm just supposed to have no problems. Especially when you're doing what you believe God called you to do. You're like, why am I even experiencing problems, God? You told me to do this. Like, why am I experiencing problems? But I believe that problems are actually a lesson. Like, in process, there will not be an absence of problems. Like, you're going to have problems, but it's a part of the process, and it's teaching you a lesson. I'm learning a lot, If the problems didn't arise, I don't think I would have I got really educated in podcasting. Like, I got educated, because like when you're getting into a new field, like you got to get educated in that field. I didn't really know, like, I podcast, but I didn't know like professionally or like for real or like seriously podcasting. No joke. Like, you see, I'm always like, oh, everyone has like a podcast, which you feel like everyone got one. It's so easy. I've been doing it for so long. And then like when I'm actually doing it, like, whoo, when I know I'm the person that's editing and I'm the person that's putting it all together, like, that's different. Okay. Like, I got to help myself out. Like, as I'm recording, I'm doing things for my future self, because I know it will help the process of this recording. No pun intended. But yes, I hope I covered everything that I wanted to cover. This is the process series. So I feel like in the next one, I should talk about how, these problems and pushbacks in the process can be turned into lessons to learn and actually advance you in your process. Like, someone should really count how many times I said process in here if like you feel like it, because I feel like I said process a lot in this podcast. I think I really covered all the bases of what I wanted to talk about, you know. 2 questions I definitely want to leave you with is, how do you deal with the problems and the pushbacks when you're in process? And where is the problems and pushback coming from? Definitely leave it in the comments, or I believe the Q&A section on the Q&A section on Spotify, if this is where you're listening from, or tweet it, or I'm going to post a post on Instagram. You can leave it in the comments and let me know what you think, or maybe let me know what you want to talk about in the next episode. Give me some questions, because if you're in process like me, let me know what you do. I feel like this second episode is really like me in it, and the next one, hopefully it's like more like, ooh, we got through it, but I'm still in it, you know. So yeah, we just have to get through the process. Right now we're in process of the beginning. We're in the beginning of the process. And you know, the process really don't end, because like the journey don't end. You keep growing, you keep going. So we're just going to do the best we can while we can in this process, and go forward into what God has promised, and keep walking in our purpose. In Jesus' name. Okay, I believe that is all for today. If you like this podcast, you can share, and you can comment in the places where I say you can comment. And see you on the next episode. And also, you can follow me on my social media at LQueenLuvz. That's LQUEENLUVZ. And that is all for today. Once again, this is the L Says podcast. You listen to Queen herself, L. I hope and pray you have an amazing day, week, month, and year. I love you all. See you on the next podcast. And until next time, XO, moi.